Thanks again for subscribing and listening to the Clive Barker Podcast, the only podcast dedicated to the imagination of Clive Barker. This is episode 192. We catch up with the latest news from the Reef, including convention and screening appearances, new Hellraiser toys, and some feedback on our last episode with Cenobium's Ed and Nina Martinez. Well, thanks for joining us again. This is episode 192 of the Clive Barker Podcast. And I'm Ryan.
And I'm Joe.
Hey, so this is a news episode, so nothing super heavy. I guess first in the news we've got Chris McCorkindale. You'll recognize her as Shuna Sassy in Nightbreed. She's going to be at For the Love of Horror convention in Manchester. October.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, in October 20 to 21st this year. And so it says here on the website, Christine McCorkindale will play the role of Shuna Sassy, a character from Clive Barker's 1990 movie Nightbreed and its comic book spin-offs. Shuna was a beautiful but mutated human with an animalistic face and a coat of long poisonous quills which covered her head, back, and upper arms. She had the ability to launch these quills from her body at high speeds in order to strike at her enemies from a distance. The woman who would come to be known as Shuna Sassy was taken in as a youth by an exotic brothel owner in Boston and set to work catering for rich men with exotic and dangerous tastes. After accidentally killing one of her clients with a careless touch from one of her deadly spines, Shuna was forced to flee Boston and eventually found her way to Midian, taking refuge with the tribes of the moon.
Wow.
So,
they did their homework.
They sure did. Yeah. It's great stuff. It looks like they not only saw the movie, but they read the comic books from Boom Studios that came out some time ago.
Or they got that from Nightbreed Chronicles.
That too, yeah. So it's always fun to see people from the Clive Barker universe be able to, enter the circuit of conventions and stuff, because it's good for them and it's good for the fans. Because for a long time, we the fans didn't have a lot of Nightbreed people going to conventions and stuff. I mean, we always had Nicholas Vince and Simon Banford and Doug Bradley. Yeah. But it's nice to see other people like Chris McCorkindale, who was in our episode,
and Bobby too. I think thanks to the Cabal Cut and Russell and Mark and everybody, touring the Cabal Cut around, we got to meet all these exclusive Nightbreed, actors. Well, I mean they've been in other things, but not just a Hellraiser reunion that happens to also be a Nightbreed reunion. Right,
and I still haven't forgotten about my plan to buy a copy of Berserker, a 2004 film with the Craig Sheffer, and have him sign that for me.
Right.
Because come on, it's such a bad movie. Yeah. It's Berserker, Hell's Warrior, and it's I think you can find that on Amazon Prime or Netflix or something like that. So that's Craig Sheffer's probably his worst film ever.
Oh man.
I know.
Berserker.
And then the Wikipedia page, it says reception. The film was called Overambitious and also a train wreck. That's on the Wikipedia page. The sounds of the Valkyries reminded another critic of the hissing of his cat when he sees another cat. Holy crap! It was mocked by Riff Tracks as a video-on-demand release in 2018. Now I got to see that. Yeah.
Sorry, I've got a cold or something.
Oh, no. Okay. Chris McCorkindale. So she's going to be at that convention October 20 to 21st. So
yeah. And you can click the link in the show notes and find your way to where you can buy tickets and everything if you're in Manchester or can get to Manchester. Okay.
Yeah, and there's going to be other guests there as well. Danny Trejo, Tyler Main. So good roster of guests over there for the love of horror.
Yeah, that sounds cool. And Funko, I always think of Funko Pops, but I guess they make other kinds of figures too. So they have these He-Man looking figures. They're called Savage World. And they have a Pinhead that looks like a He-Man bad guy.
It's hilarious. Yeah, you remember the He-Man figurines from the '80s and the way that they looked like they look like they're 5'1" and they have way too many muscles.
Yeah, and
so yeah, they
and
did that till
their heads were rubber and you could kind of squeeze them and pop their heads out.
Oh yeah, wow.
Yeah.
So we have Leatherface, Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, and of course Pinhead.
Yeah.
And they make sure, as usual, for any of this like statue stuff that comes out with Pinhead, it's always the Hellraiser 3 Pinhead. So this one says Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth Pinhead, and he's got a little box, he's got a knife, and he's got like a scythe kind of thing. So very
there must be some with the rights for using the Hellraiser 3 Pinhead versus the other ones.
I think so. I think it's probably got to do with that guy who's got the rights to Hellraiser 3. What was his name? I forgot. The guy who keeps trying to make a Hellraiser TV show.
Oh,
anyway.
Okay. But isn't that strange? I mean, because Hellraiser 3 Pinhead is only subtly different from Hellraiser, and you'd think it would all be the same rights. Because it's the character. You. Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, his face is a little bluer, his pins are a little longer, I think, but there's not really very much different.
Right. So Savage World is coming in September from Funko Pop, and it says right here on their website, welcome to your worst nightmares, everyone's favorite horror villains. They are heavily armed and entirely fitting additions to the Funko Savage World line.
So would you have recognized Freddy Krueger if you didn't see his name next to him?
Well, he's got the burned like skin, and he's got like a ripped. I wouldn't call it a sweater. It's more like it's more like this, just like a
tunic or something.
Yeah, like a tunic, like a green and red tunic wrapped around his torso, and he's got like a hood, and he kind of looks a little bit like a Skeletor if he still had any flesh and muscles on his So I don't know. I mean, definitely Jason Voorhees always has the hockey mask, so you always recognize that.
Yeah. And Michael Myers, same with him and his mask. Although he's gone sleeveless.
He has gone sleeveless. He's got a couple of big knives. Leatherface has, of course, a chainsaw, a big wooden hammer. Jason Voorhees has a bone axe and a bone sword or dagger, I guess you would call it. And Freddy Krueger has this weird glove / claw thing that is strapped to one of his wrists. So it's definitely an interesting reinvention for sure.
Yeah. I know it's strange. It's weird to see Pinhead all muscle bound too. With that wide like He-Man stance.
It sure is.
Yeah.
The last thing I think about when I think about Pinhead is like muscles.
Yeah.
But it's one of those alternate dimension things. So it's kind of cool. I think my favorite one actually is Michael Myers from this like Savage World horror line.
Oh yeah.
I think I could go for that one more than the Pinhead one, to be honest.
Well, and then we've got so this was interesting. I guess it's kind of like, I think Rob likes digging around through old blog posts and stuff, because he kind of ran into this old article, and it was basically relaying information from an interview with Ryuhei Kitamura with Mick Garris on his podcast. Back in Postmortem back in April. So basically, he was talking about his time with Midnight Meat Train and the politics of was it Joe Drake taking over the studio and not wanting to promote his movies over the movie of The Outgoing, that was produced by The Outgoing
executive.
Yeah. And how it made him want to stop film for a while, and actually, there was a more recent episode of that podcast where he had him on again, and he was talking about it again, how he wanted to quit the film industry when that happened.
Wow. I remember seeing a video of Clive around that time when they kind of dumped basically the Midnight Meat Train in dollar theaters. You remember that?
Yeah, it was like less than 100 theaters.
Yeah, and they were like dollar theaters, so it wasn't going to make any money. And I remember Clive being on a convention or something, and someone was asking him about Midnight Meat Train, and he was explaining the situation. And then I remember him saying, in his typical raspy voice at the time, is like, "Let what was the company?
Lionsgate.
Yeah, Lionsgate. He's like, yeah, send them dead things in the mail.
Yeah, right.
It's like,
yeah,
send them dead things in the mail. Clive was pretty pissed at that.
Yeah. Well, he should have been. I mean, it's it's really disheartening. And was that, did Dread and I forget, did Dread and the
Book of Blood
come after? I think they were before, right?
I'm not sure. I think there was after.
Because that was 2008, I think, was the Midnight Meat Train, and I thought Dread was like 07.
Okay, well, I guess I can look it up. Yeah, Dread.
Yeah, but they all seem to come right on the heels of each other, and it was an interesting time. You know, you think they're just going to keep going forever with all of these adaptations of the Books of Blood stories.
Yeah, so Dread was 2009.
Oh, so Dread was after. You know, and I thought it was strange that the Midnight Meat Train had a really good Blu-ray release, and Dread was just kind of like, DVD.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't particularly like Dread. I liked some parts of it, but
that was unfortunate, yeah. And also Book of Blood was in 2009 as well.
Yeah. And Book of Blood was better than Dread.
Yeah, I thought so too. I didn't like what they did with Dread, but at least they didn't do that weird script that we reviewed once. Remember the de Blasi script?
Yes.
Where, and there was that de Blasi also wrote that script for a Damnation Game, I think, where Anthony Breer was like a Lamborghini car salesman or something.
Yeah.
And I'm reading that thing and I'm like, what the heck is going on with this? Yeah. It's like, that didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
Anyway.
There are so many scripts that didn't, and so the ones by Clive Barker looked really cool, but there were some adaptations and we've talked a lot about all these Hellraiser movies that never got made that, were just horrible.
Yeah. So go to Postmortem, Mick Garris' podcast, and look for the Ryuhei. How do I spell his name? How do you pronounce his name again?
It's Ryuhei, but so you can say Ryuhei.
Ryuhei Kitamura as a guest at Mick Garris' podcast Postmortem, and check out that more recent episode that Ryan mentioned, because I think that's really, really, if you like Midnight Meat Train, that will be pretty interesting to listen to and find out more about why that movie ended up the way it did.
Yeah, they worked more together recently on there was an anthology movie that they just made where there were 3 directors, I think, that directed the 3 parts of the movie.
Oh, I see.
And then Mick Garris, it was kind of his idea.
Yeah, it's great to see podcasts done by people who actually have a history in being around horror and cinema and stuff. And Mick Garris has definitely been involved with lots of stuff over the decades, from Stephen King adaptations to, the Masters of Horror TV show. And so he's been present in a lot of interesting projects over the years. So it's great that he's doing this podcast and he's inviting all these people. Because it's always great to listen to that stuff. I mean, I love cinema podcasts, and especially, there was this podcast that I used to listen to a lot. It was the Bret Easton Ellis podcast, and at one point he was just inviting all these like movie directors in his podcast and talking about their movies and stuff. So it really is interesting to hear those things and sometimes find out that things that you've always like enjoyed in certain movies were actually incidental or they never intended for certain things to turn out the way they did, but then it's just happy coincidences happen. And, you meet someone and you talk to someone at a party and then that's how a movie gets started. And, it's fantastic to hear those stories. So if you want to know more about the Midnight Meat Train, go listen to that.
And a quick plug also for David's Cinema Bluster podcast. David, who's been on our podcast and sometimes writes news articles for us.
Yes, of course, yeah.
Yeah, so I like that one. I listen to it, although, I don't have time to see all the movies they're talking about. So most of the time, all the stuff they're talking about kind of goes over my head. But
yeah, David and Travis, right?
Yeah. And thanks to them, they mentioned us a couple of times on their last episode.
That's awesome. So what's next on the news?
There's a Hellraiser screening coming up in Ireland.
Oh yeah. So it's let's see if I can say the name of the location. It's Clonakilty, Ireland. So it's part of the Spook Screen Festival. And actor and author Nicholas Berman Vince announced on his Facebook page that he'll be introducing a new Hellraiser screening. So that's going to be awesome. It's going to open up with some Hammer films, Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell, and They Live by John Carpenter is going to play at this festival as well.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I'm here to kick ass and chew bubble gum. The festival runs from Thursday the 6th to Sunday the 9th of September. So yeah, go if you're there, go check it out in Ireland, and go tell Nicholas Vince that we sent you there.
Yeah. You know, I think that They Live, it seems like that movie has kind of lived a life beyond its original. Because you see people wearing like these Obey t-shirts, and it's like, I bet that person has never even seen the movie.
Yeah. Well, that Obey slogan became more famous after that graffiti artist guy, the guy who did the Obama Hope poster.
Oh, yeah.
I forget his name. Ah, man, I know his name. I have like
I know what you mean, though. It's like all red and blue.
Yeah. So that guy made some graffiti, some poster images with Andre the Giant that said "Obey," and that's
really?
how. Yeah, and that's I think how that slogan started becoming more popular again.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, if you click the link in the show notes, you can find out. You can work your way over to where you can buy tickets to get there if you're in Ireland, or you can make it to Ireland to go see this screening of Hellraiser and say hi to Nicholas Vince.
Yeah, and hear the funny stories he has to say about being the Chatterer.
Yeah, it's funny and sometimes a little sad too.
Yeah, or how they called him on set, poor bastard.
Yeah,
because he couldn't see anything, and then it was just drooling inside his mask because of those weird teeth appliances and all that. So that couldn't have been comfortable at all.
Yeah,
and not to mention the hook that went into his mouth when they were doing Hellbound.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
And as we're recording this, there is 14 hours left on the Torturer, and we hope that that there's a mad rush here, that they make their goal in these last 14 hours. Unfortunately, this won't air until 24 hours from now, so Sunday. But we wish them the best. I really hope that this goes through, because it's got three of our friends, the Little Spark Films. It's got Paul Kane and Paul T. Taylor, and they're all people we've had on the podcast and we've worked with, and they've been great.
Yeah, and we had a chance to read the script and all that, so it seems like a really interesting project, and it's on Indiegogo. So I hope that by the time you're hearing this, that more people have donated. There was always a big rush at the end in the last few hours of people who were just waiting to see whether or not the project will be funded. And most people will eventually give a lot of donations at the beginning of a project and then at the end. Yeah. Sometimes there's a slump in the middle, so we hope that's the case. But The Torture would be an awesome movie with a Paul Kane story and a Paul T. Taylor protagonist. So it's going to be cool. It's going to be brutal. Yeah, so for the people who've listened to our previous episode with Ed Martinez and Nina, we got some feedback, right? We got some feedback about that show. Lots of people enjoyed it. And, for example, Guy Conrad, who was a member of the Synovium team back when they were doing it, said, "This is great. I remember those days working on Synovium." And another comment he did was, "Great podcast. I heard you have a feature for the visually impaired, which is a great idea because I know a couple of people like that." So that was from Guy Conrad, again, illustrator for Synovium.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then we had a one on the blog, right?
Yeah, Kevin said, "Yes, they did a magazine and many, many more involvements in the Hellraiser series. Pretty much the experts on the movies, series, and ancillary. I think he means ancillary material. Okay.
Yeah.
Ancillary. Yes. Material. Okay. Got it. Yeah.
Right. The joys of live recording.
There we go.
And then Teresa Lipanovic said, great cast on two of the biggest fans of the series and their magazine. Experts on the material.
Yeah.
They sure are.
Yeah. It was great talking with them.
Yeah. And Leslie Johnson-Greaser said, really enjoyed listening to the podcast Sunday evening while painting a model kit. Awesome and fun interview with Ed and Nina. Yeah, Leslie, let us know what model kit you were doing. Is it like one of those screamy model kits?
Yeah, that'd be interesting to find out.
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, of course, it was great talking with Ed and Nina. And I think about what we would have been, if we were like 10 years older and we were doing, something like what we do now, but it was 10 years ago, we would probably be doing some kind of a fanzine.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I tried that once when I was still on the Hellbound web.
Oh yeah.
And I remember getting like a copy of what was that? There was this like a page. There was this like magazine or whatever editor that you could install. I forgot the name of it. It wasn't Front Page. It was something else. But anyway, so I played around with that and I started writing some articles and I was trying to make like a little newsletter for like the Hellraiser fan community. And I tried getting some people to join in and offer some articles, but nobody cared. Nobody wanted to do anything. It's like, it seems too much work. Yeah. So I was like, I'm not going to do a newsletter all by myself. That's kind of sad and pathetic, but I don't know. So it never went further than that. So anyway.
Yeah. Well, doing a podcast is a similar kind of amount of work, but it's little smaller chunks, I guess.
It was InStyle, I think. It was a software called InStyle. I don't know if that was an actual software. Yeah, I think I remember that. We're talking things that, maybe like almost 20 years ago. So
yeah. Yeah, and on the Cenobiums, they would say what computer that I think Diane was using and what software. And originally it was like a Mac.
Mac 2.
Yeah, and PageMaker or something like that, I think.
PageMaker. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so that was fun. That was a fun episode. We'll probably have. We'll definitely have Nina and Ed back in the episode at some point to talk about more stuff, visits to sets and Lord of Illusions and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, so that's on the CliveBarkerCast.com website now. That's the last episode. You can go there and check it out if you haven't. And coming soon, we are listening to Galilee on audiobook, and we're researching for Galilee right now. So it's been interesting revisiting this book.
Yeah. So if everything goes well and everybody makes it through the book, that'll be next week.
Yeah, that's exciting. We haven't done a novel in a while, discussion novel.
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting to talk about Galilee. Yeah. Unfortunately, one of those books where Clive Barker started like a piece of a larger story, and then he never got back to completing it. Yeah, it's very, very interesting a little book. A lot of awesome visual images that he put in there, especially when Caesarea or Caesarea?
Caesarea. That's how he says it. He says Caesarea in the audiobook.
I'm never going to say it that way. I'm never, ever going to say it Caesarea. That just sounds nuts.
At first when he kept saying Caesarea, I'm like, who is he talking about? And then I'm like, oh.
Yeah. And what else? We have Hunters in the Snow and Colossus, the play scripts. I really have to step on that and order that. I know you already have yours, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't read Hunters in the Snow yet, but
okay.
Yeah, that'll be in like. So we got Galilee, and then we'll have another news episode. So it'll be like almost a month,
And there's that essay book, Clive Barker, The Dark Imaginer, that we will also get to at some point. So that's what's coming up on our podcast.
And the author has said that she would come on and talk with us about it. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. It's great. So, this was a quick news episode. It's been a busy week for the both of us. I know you've been moving and doing stuff like that.
I've been tearing out stuff in the house we're moving to, and it's been super slow going. And
yeah, I've seen you sell like washers and dryers and all sorts of appliances on your Facebook page. So I've been working really hard too.
Come today, and I'm just like, we have to get over there in the morning and clear a space out because they're going to be bringing pallets with the new cabinets on it. And the garage floor is supposed to be sealed in a couple of days. We got to get them off of the garage floor. It's just.
Oh yeah, okay. You guys going to do the epoxy floor in the garage?
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. That's really, really cool. Yeah, I've been working 7 days a week. So I work a full-time job in the week, and then I work Saturday and Sunday, another 8 hours. So It's been really hard to find the time to prepare for the podcast. But hey, here we are. So we're hopefully going to do Galilee next week and listening to the audiobook right now.
Yeah, and this podcast, having no beginning, will have no end. You can find the show notes for this episode and join the discussion over at www.clivebarkercast.com, where we have news, features, reviews, and links to all the ways you can connect with us. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts and every other place you can find podcasts. Clive Barker Podcast, or BarkerCast, is an independent editorial, podcast, and news blog that is not affiliated with or under contract by Clive Barker or Seraphim Inc. This is a labor of love by the fans for the fans.
Thanks for listening.